Morning of September 3rd, 2023, Calvin Castine, beautiful downtown Mooers. We're at the fire station, in front of the fire station, where their annual field day events are going and people are crowding in here. It's wall-to-wall folks in that direction. You can see the smoke from the chicken barbecue.
But we're here to celebrate, obviously, this Labor Day celebration we have here every year in Mooers, and it's 65 years this year that these hardworking firemen and the auxiliary and everybody's been putting this on, and it's just wonderful to come over here all the time. I'm right from down the road in a little suburb called Earlville, so I've been coming here for years myself. And 70 years for the auxiliary, should be commended for everything that you have done for this community, so thank you so much. And it's the Mooers Volunteer Fire Department's 75th anniversary. And I won't go through and read this, but I have a proclamation from New York State. And I think it's important to say, whereas it is always important to recognize and honor the brave individuals who come together to keep our community safe, the Mooers Volunteer Fire Department was founded October 5th, 1948, when a group of volunteers came together to provide this vital service for the town of Mooers. The first elected department was led by Fire Chief Arthur Forkey, Assistant Chief Willard Orr, Secretary-Treasurer Albert Longton, and delegate to the Clinton County Firemen's Association, Floyd Dragoon. The Mooers Volunteer Fire Department began with a war surplus fire trailer, we were just talking about that earlier, and a converted GMC truck, but the volunteers worked hard to improve the next truck phase, equipped with a 500-gallon tank pumper and a 1,000-gallon tank storage, several hundred feet of hose, headlamps, lights. Today, the Mooers Volunteer Fire Department and the auxiliary continue to preserve the ideas of their original volunteers, which is to serve the people of this town and surrounding communities. Ever since its founding, the Department and Auxiliary have organized this annual Labor Day celebration that includes music, games, and now the famous chicken barbecue. And now therefore be resolved that I, Assemblyman and Billy Jones, honor the Mooers Volunteer Fire Department and Auxiliary for their decades and decades of service and selfless service. Thank you so much. I don't know who's getting that. Here, why don't we get a picture? Get in here, Francis. Get in here, Calvin. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Want the mic?
Okay, we have to wait. Well, Brandon, it's your first time with the camera? He's new at it, so. Now Velma's holding us up here. My gosh. We've got a resolution here. We got Francis Perrier, Area 2 legislator. We got a young lady named Myrtle Hawksley, and your title with the auxiliary is? President. We got Todd Gunlaw, the fire chief, and Chris Boris, you are the president of the fire department. And when I heard that this was the 75th year, I looked online, and the fire department has a Facebook page that says 60 years for the auxiliary. So I said, how about that? So I'll go on the old newspaper link and look up and see who the first officers were in the auxiliary, because I knew from what the fire department had said that it was who the officers were there, and I looked and they're giving out 10-year ribbons. So I said, uh-oh, something's wrong. So unfortunately our resolution here says 70 years and 75 for the fire department. And when Francis and I first got up here, Myrtle was giving us a little history, so maybe I'll grab my camera after and we'll impose on Myrtle and give more history, because she's older than all of us combined, I think. So, Francis, do you want to read part of that, or what's your plans?
Unfortunately, I can't read it.
Can't read it. Oh, okay. Well, I'll read parts of it here. This was moved on August 16th. Whereas fire departments are an integral part of community protection services in every locality in our state, the courageous and devoted firefighters of the Mooers Volunteer Fire Department have valiantly responded to all types of fire emergencies and have won the praise and respect of the community which they serve. And then it also goes on to mention, historically, the Ladies Auxiliary of the Fire Department has been organized to assist and encourage the fire company in its good work, and is the aim of the Ladies Auxiliary to cultivate a spirit of harmony, promote sociability, and to sustain the esteem and admiration of the community in which it serves. This certainly is the case of the Mooers Volunteer Fire Department Ladies Auxiliary. So it does go on to mention the founders of Forky, Orr, Lumpkin, and Floyd Dragoon. And just for the record, I'm parking in the Dragoon's parking lot right now, so don't tell them that that's where I'm parked. So this is presented here. It's got about 15 more whereases, and I would be here all day if I read them all, but we do want to present this. I guess we'll give it to the president of the fire department, she says. All right, so Chris, this is a big chance here. Thank you. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I did all my work here to arrange this with Todd, so, and they got work to do out over that way. Anything else anybody would like to say?
I'd just like to let everybody know that Mr. Kenny Hawksby's here. Kenny's been a long-time member. What is it, 63 years? How many years, Kenny?
Going on 60.
I thought, going on 60. Okay. So 59 years as an active fireman. He is still active in the department. Still responds to calls.
And that's,
Helps out when he can.
in many cases, it's a family affair. And Myrtle, how many years for you?
55.
And your daughter Kendra? 30-something years for Kendra. So it's a family affair. Like I mentioned, the Dragons, Jack, Wayne, they've all been involved in the wives. Mrs. Floyd was on that first committee, and then Margaret was for years, I'm sure. So anybody else got anything that they'd like to add to this? Francis? There we go. Get right there.
I better go down. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to reminisce a little bit, because I was fire chief in Altona 39 years ago. And back then, mutual aid isn't like it is now. We had, our mutual aid for Altona was, Mooers was #1, Ellenberg and West Shazy. But we had most of our mutual aid, we always called Mooers. And back then, Mooers was a fine, upstanding fire department, just like it is now. And one of my favorite moments is when Rennie Rabideau was chief. We had a controlled burn over there on Hemingford Road, and him and I sat and we talked for a long time about our fire department. And as far as the auxiliary goes, they were fantastic too, because we had a lot of structure fires back then. And one day up, I think it was up in Cannon Corner on a Davidson Road maybe, or somewhere over there, we had a structure fire in the middle of the night. And the Mooers Auxiliary came, and it was like 25 below, the water was freezing on your jacket, you had to hit it so you could move, and I'm not kidding. So they were handing out coffee and whatever else they were giving out, and I don't drink coffee. So I went up to them, I said, what do you have besides coffee? They didn't have anything. So one of the ladies in the auxiliary said, how about hot water? So that night, I had a cup of hot water, and I owe it all to the ladies' auxiliary of Mooers Fire Department. So,
How did it taste?
tastes like hot water. Well, I think one of them stuck their finger in it. Anyways, I personally know that the Mooers Fire Department have had an excellent fire department over the last 39 years, and I can tell, and I'm sure before, Mr. Hawksby told me he was chief before Rennie or after? Before? Before Rennie. And I've known Mr. Hawksby a long time, and I've known Myrtle a long time. So, I have a heartfelt feeling for the Mooers Fire Department. I know they're going to continue to do what they're doing, and they're going to do it to their best of their ability. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your presentations. I'd like to thank everybody for coming to the 75th anniversary of the Mooers Fire Department. I'm going to turn it over to the Busco Bandits.
That'll wrap up this coverage. Maybe we can get Myrtle to talk, maybe not. We'll give it a try. We have tracked Myrtle down. She is very busy in what we'll call this the bay. Is this the bay here?
This is the bay.
This is the bay. All right. Myrtle in the bay. All right.
Myrtle in the bay.
And Myrtle, when I walked up to the podium up there, you and Francis were chatting a little bit. Francis Perry and you were chatting, and you were giving him a little history on the founding of all this. So,
It was founded in 1948, of course, and they had little or nothing to start with, and what they built by hand. They had a construction tanker, and that's what they built in their tanker, and they armed it with people from the town, had stuff, and they put it on the things, and then 10 years later, the Labor Day doing was started so that they could buy their first truck.
so that was 65 years ago. 65 years ago.
They started for their first non-homemade truck,
First real truck.
a real truck.
So that was about 1958 then. That's,
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that, those fires were happening before 58 and before 48.
That's right, and to realize that our winters are not the greatest, and here they're going in homemade things and doing the job well.
Well, they're still going out there in these winters, and it seems like every winter there's some in the area. There's somewhere there's a huge fire on a cold, blustery night. I think that when the place in Shazy burnt this year.
Oh yes, and that wind is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I remember the St. Mary's Academy fire. It was a terrible night. And so many of these fires occur in the worst times of the year.
Well, yes, because they don't want to be nice for you to be out in a a nice warm night.
But it's just amazing how many volunteers, and then 5 years after the fire department got going, the auxiliary started.
The auxiliary got going, and Mrs. Conover was the first president. Yes, and I'm not quite sure who the others were, but Mrs. Dragoon was in there and Mrs. Hogel. So they were very strong, hardworking women who would like to have a lot of fun too.
Yes, when I read that article from 60 years ago, it didn't mention Wilma anymore because she had moved to Champlain by then.
Right.
In fact, she was living a mile from me. Paul, her husband Paul, was over there at Dragoon's Farm Equipment when they opened up, and Paul, I think, working for the phone company when he moved to the Champlain area, and of course he was famous for working on Charlie Tremblay's stock cars.
That is right.
So you've seen a lot of changes over the years. A nice turnout of workers here today. I see everybody behind you very, very busy. We've got a good turnout of workers today.
We are very fortunate that we have a community that will also volunteer. So we only have so many,
Right.
and there are sometimes there's not enough to fill, and then we have the community that will help us.
So
So
you kind of call on your friends and relatives and neighbors and kids and grandkids. I'm sure that's how Kendra got involved. Because you said, "Hey, Kendra, come help out." And
well, they were her and Crystal also, but they were here when they were very young doing the fish booth out there, but or selling ice cream or balloons or whatever. but the auxiliary opened it up to our children, and she joined at that time.
So you got a chicken barbecue today. Along with this, you had some. Was there fireworks? Were they last night?
They were last night, and they were absolutely gorgeous.
I was in the soccer booth at Northeastern, and I could hear the noise, but I couldn't see them because my back was to Mooers.
They were beautiful.
Yeah, I heard some oohing and awing from the people in the stands there.
They were fantastic.
Oh, great.
Dr. Claus does an excellent, and his committee or people that works with him was gorgeous.
Okay, I see people are driving up. I know during the COVID years, that's what we did here. We drove up. Are you going to have indoors too? If people want to come inside and eat?
No.
Nobody eating
No,
inside?
The first few years that COVID was here, we didn't have anything. Everything that we planned on for a moneymaker was absolutely gone. So we tried this, and it worked really well. We get things cleaned right after. It worked out better than we had expected.
No tables to clean after?
No tables, no garbage, no nothing. Here's your food, go home.
No, you park your car and come back.
Or you eat under the pavilion.
Yeah.
We have a band out there today, so you can eat and have.
Bosco Bandits are there?
Yes. We've got a little train for the kids with Mike Denault holding it with his truck, and that is just cute. Cute.
Yeah, when I saw Mike pulling that cart of kids there in the train, I told your husband Ken, I said, I thought the train didn't go through Mooers anymore. I was wrong.
You were wrong. Yeah, so that was we took some of our booths down just because they had been up for a while. Again, they stay out in the winter and had to have a lot of remodeling, so we just took them down. So we didn't have that much for kids, and this was one of them. So yeah, it works out.
Okay, so I'm sure you'll think back and say, oh, I should have mentioned so-and-so and the history and so-and-so, but that always happens.
No, we have a wonderful community, period, with wonderful workers. Unfortunately, we have, like all communities, everybody is not volunteering like they used to, and one of these days it's going to get tough.
Yes, it's getting there. I know I was talking to Woody Kissel from Champlain. He said they're trying to do things to encourage recruitment, and every department's in that same boat.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of requirement that you have to go through. There's a lot of study. There's a lot of your time that you have to put in it. It's not like volunteering. Oh, I want to volunteer and I'm okay. That's long gone.
Right. So yeah, you not only got to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning when that alarm goes off, but you got at least one work night, but you got all the training besides that before you can call yourself a firefighter.
And the classroom work is unbelievable. It's like a college class.
And then you got to go out and fundraise.
Yes.
We'll let you volunteer to save our home, but you got to raise some money to do it.
When you stop and think about how much all equipment is costing nowadays,
Oh yeah.
you look at it and you say, please don't move. I don't want you to do anything but look pretty, because it's that expensive.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, I know you're anxious to get back there. You can hear the goings on. I can see them. So
We're already through 2 coolers.
2 coolers of what here? Explain that.
Chickens.
Chicken. Okay.
Oh, well, yeah, that would be nice too.
That comes after.
Yeah.
Okay. Our thanks to Myrtle Hawksby and of course the entire Hawksby family for all they've done. I want to thank my cohort Francis Perrier for the great job he did on reminiscing about Altona Fire Department. And I didn't think to mention it with Myrtle, but back in '57 when we had one a few years back, I think about 5 years ago, we had a big fire in Altona on the Flat Rock, but had a really big one, even bigger than that, back in '57. And Altona did not have a fire department yet in 1957. They've obviously got an excellent one now, but so we kind of take fire departments for granted. And if more of you younger folks don't step up, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters ain't going to help you put that fire out. So who are you going to call? So we need more and more young people stepping up and saying, I can do this. My parents, my grandparents, they've done it for years. We can step up and help the fire departments. So great fundraiser here today. As we said, the Busco Bandits are outside. The fans are enjoying it. The temperature when I shut my vehicle off was 80 degrees. So, and the lineup is out the door for people that will be grabbing their food and holding out to a picnic table outside. And the cars and trucks are driving up and wandering off with their meals. So looks like a very successful fundraiser happening here. And we commend all of our fire departments. So many of them in our area that, the Rouse's Point has their fundraisers every year. Champlain, as we said, Shazy, Altona, Ellenburg, they've all just up in Ellenburg Center last week. So a lot of effort goes into it, and it's more than just answering that call. They work around the clock, year round, to make sure that our homes are safe. So that'll wrap it up. We didn't know till we got here that Billy Jones was going to take part in this, so a nice plaque from the state. And Francis Perrier, as I said, my cohort, I'm Area 1 legislator. Francis is Area 2. My area goes up as far as Mooers Forks, and then Francis takes over there and has Altona, Ellenburg, parts of Dannemora, and all of Cherubusco. So thanks for watching.